Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our today's webinar. It's another one in our post-Brexit REACH compliance series. And today we are going to talk about UK safety datasheets and their compliance. My name is Simona Popelkova. I will today guide you through this webinar, and the expert talking about the actual expertise is Dragana Basic. Welcome, Dragana. Dragana is connected to us from Serbia, and she's our regulatory queen with focus on safety data sheets. So today you are in a very capable hands.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that you will find this webinar useful and that it will help you with the compilation of your safety data sheet. I will start with a brief introduction, as I'm sure that you all know what the SDS is and that the SDSs are for quite some time with us, and that we are using it actually very frequently as a mean for communication within the supply chain. So I will just maybe briefly say that as we have the requirement on the EU REACH to provide SDSs for some substances and mixtures, the same is with UK REACH regulation. So the safety data sheets enable users to take the necessary measures relating to protection of human health and safety at the workplace and protection of the environment. So basically, both the employees and workers use it as a source for information about hazards and to obtain advice on the safety precautions. So the safety data sheets enable employees to determine whether any hazardous chemical agents are present at the workplace, and of course, how to assess the risk to the health and safety of workers arising from their use. I would like also to remind you when there is requirement for the safety data sheet, when you need to prepare and provide to your customers the safety data. So there is 3 points. When you have a substance or a mixture meets the criteria for classification as hazardous in accordance with CLP regulation, you need to provide and to compile safety data sheet. When your substance is persistent, bioaccumulative, and toxic, or very persistent, very bioaccumulative, in accordance with the criteria set out in Annex 13, and when the substance is included in the list established in accordance with Article 59.1 for reasons other than those I have mentioned in points A and B. So there is a scenario when your mixture does not meet the criteria for classification as hazardous in accordance with Titles 1 and 2 of the CLP regulation, but you will still need to provide the safety data sheet on request. I will just list these points when you need to provide to your customers the safety data sheet on request. It is when you have individual concentration greater or equal 1% by weight for non-gaseous mixtures and greater or equal 0.2% by volume for gaseous mixtures, at least one substance causing human health or environmental hazards. Or if you have substances in the individual concentration of greater or equal 0.1% by weight for non-gaseous mixtures, at least one substance that is carcinogenic category 2 or toxic to reproduction category 1A, 1B, or 2, skin or respiratory sensitizer category add-on, or has effects on or via lactation, or is PBT or VB in accordance with the criteria set out in Annex 13, or has been included for reasons other than those I have mentioned in point 1 in the list established in accordance with Article 59.1. The third scenario is when you have a substance in relation to which the law of any part of the United Kingdom provides workplace exposure limits. I just want to point out that we in the UK have the same requirement, but for the union workplace exposure limits. Now you need to follow that and see if there is a workplace exposure limits in any part of the United Kingdom, and it so, you need to provide safety data sheet on request. So will the compliance with the UK REACH regulation require a new SDS format? As we heard before from the relevant UK authorities, the format, content, and the conditions under which SDSs are required are specified in the UK REACH. This was, of course, carried across into UK as well, as they existed in the end of the transitional period. This should be pointed out that the Annex 2 has amended by the EU Commission last year, and that Withdrawal Act covered EU legislation into UK law, but it's only carried over the same regulatory obligation into UK law, which were in force on December 2020. As the new Commission legislation started to apply from 1st of January this year, it was not carried over under UK REACH. So we can use SDSs until 31st of December 2020. So I think it's enough time for the companies to adapt and to provide new SDSs if necessary. In this webinar, I will just point out some sections. Of course, as I said, the format remains the same. We have 16 sections following with the subsections. So nothing has been changed there, but I want to point out some information that might require a little bit changes by you to stay compliant. As you all know, in the section 1, we have 4 subsections. So the first is product identifier, and it will be provided in accordance with Article 82 of the CLP regulation in the case of substance, and in accordance with Article 18.3a of CLP regulation in the case of mixture. And all the information on the label, like name, CAS number, EC number, etc., will be provided in English. There is actually under EU CLP Annex 8, which is considered to notification, poison center notification submission, and preparation of the dossier together with the UFI code that needs to be stated in section 1. Under UK CLP regulation, there is no obligation to generate or submit unique formal identifier, nor to create a poison center dossier. However, the National Poison Information Service will register your product if with, of course, is associated UFI number if one has already been generated. From the 1st of January this year, the EU CLP regulation, including the mentioned Annex 8, will continue to apply in EU member states and in Northern Ireland. So it's important to say that the Northern Ireland will accept poison center notification. So submissions for Northern Ireland must be provided in the form of PCN dossier and sent directly to NPIS Birmingham as an appointed body. These submissions can also be made via email. Regarding the details of the supplier with safety data sheet, the supplier, whether is it manufacturer, importer, only representative, downstream users or distributor, needs to be identified. Of course, the full address and the telephone number of the supplier needs to be given, as well as an email address for a competent person responsible for the safety data sheet. Regarding the Section 1.4, an emergency telephone number that needs to be provided. As UK government stated, that the emergency telephone number in Section 1.4 of the safety data sheet should give access to advice for product users in the case of any exposure. The advice should preferably be given by an appropriate person from the supplier or from an organization contracted by the supplier for this purpose. However, suppliers may wish also to include in Section 1.4 the recommendation that they can call number 111 or a doctor. The point that should be mentioned is that the emergency number provided on SDS for UK customers should not be the one of the National Poison Information Service, since they are not receiving calls from the general public. Regarding the Northern Ireland, you can inform, and the link I have provided, but the bottom line is that you need first to make the PCN notification, send it to NPIS, pay the fee, and then you are free to use their emergency telephone number. 1st of January this year, Great Britain mandatory classification and labeling, or GBMCL, replaced the EU harmonized classification labeling system, and Great Britain made its own decision about mandatory classification and labeling. All of the existing EU harmonized classification and labeling at the end of the transition period are kept as GB mandatory classification and labeling, and Great Britain suppliers need to comply with this list, with the mandatory classification and labeling in the same way as they did for EU harmonized classification and labeling before. In our presentation, you will find the link to the GBMCL, and you can download it since it's in Excel spreadsheet, and you will need to start to comply with the classification. Regarding the section 2, there are actually some requirements that were already brought. So as well as the in the EU REACH SDSs, you will need to provide hazard pictograms, signal words, hazard statements in full, or if not, the full should be listed in section 16, precautionary statements, and any additional applicable label elements in accordance with Article 25 of the CLP. I would like here to point out that regarding the labels, some roles at the end of the transitional period and from the beginning of this year been changed. So if your company was a downstream user, now can be the importer to UK. So this can trigger some changes to your labels, and if you haven't done it, you will need to do as soon as possible. So for this requirement, there isn't any transitional period after the 1st of January. So your companies need to update your labels and to comply with the requirements of Great Britain CLP. So companies must classify, label, and package the substances and mixtures according to GBCLP regulation before them placing it on the market. Labels, of course, need to be in English, but additional languages will be also permitted. In addition, the label will require the address on either the Great Britain supplier or the Northern Ireland-based supplier supplying directly to the Great Britain market. However, businesses will not have to resell substances or mixtures already placed legally on the Great Britain market to update their labels, provided the following conditions are met. If the substances or mixtures have been already placed on the Great Britain market before 1st of January this year, and that if supplier can provide and give the proof that the substance or mixture were placed on the market before that date and were required, the hazard labeling is in accordance with the GB mandatory classification and labeling, you are good then. Regarding the section 3, I said already that product identifiers need to be listed in English. If you have assigned a DUI number or later will be assigned UK REACH registration number, this is required to be stated also in the section 3 of the SDS. Regarding the REACH registration number, you'll need to communicate it also with the customers, because there is some cases when you will import goods to UK, but then you will, in a case of formulators, you will prepare a mixture and resell it to EU. That's why it's important to be informed about the REACH registration number as well, and to communicate this information down the supply chain. I will just briefly remind you here that if you are in the section 3.2, if you are using a range of percentages, the health and environmental hazard needs to be described according to the highest concentration of each ingredient. So maybe a little tip, do not forget about that. Regarding the section 8, when listing occupational exposure limit values, the chemical identity as specified in section 3 shall be used. A workplace exposure limit within the meaning of control of substances hazardous to health regulations 2002 as respect for Great Britain, or the control of substances hazardous to health regulations as respect Northern Ireland. Or if you are listing the occupational exposure limits within the meaning of the control of lead of work exposures as respect to Great Britain, or the control of lead at work regulations 2003 in respect of Northern Ireland. There might be some changes. If you want to be completely compliant, you will now have to refer to legislation of the UK, and I have provided you a link. So information about the safety, health, and environmental provisions, including Seveso category, Annex 1 directive, and all other directives and regulation, it should be stated here. As a conclusion, I want to say just a few words. All sections that are required need to be completed with sufficient specific information for your product, depending on the classification and on the substances contained in the mixture. When the information is not relevant or reliable, the reason for this should be indicated as required by the legal text. There must be consistency between different sections of the safety data sheet, but I'm sure that you already know and that you are doing in that way. And of course, your safety data sheets need to be up to date with the current chemical legislation. So that brings us this, that we need to monitor all the changes, and regarding our company, myself and regardless, we will definitely inform you on any changes as soon as we know it. So I would like to thank you. I hope that there is sufficient information from my side, but if I haven't responded to all your questions you might have, I'm here and happy to answer all of it.
Thank you very much, Dragana. I think it was very fruitful and full of information.
Hopefully.
Now I will just share some messages from the Regardless headquarters. So I would like to invite you to our upcoming webinars. Next webinar will be on 5th of May. I apologize, last time we said the 4th of May, but we had to reschedule for the 5th. So make a note in your calendars. And it will be about pros and cons of becoming the lead registrant. And then we will finish the UK REACH series with UK biocidal products regulation in a nutshell. I believe it will be as interesting as Dragana's webinar today. You can also watch our previous webinars. We did a lot of them this year. You can find them all on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe, because then you will not miss any of the videos we are adding. If you need any help with the UK REACH or EU REACH, we are here. You can read our full services here or on our websites. Also, little news, next week we should be launching a new website about UK REACH, so there you can read all of the information that we were talking about in our webinars and all the services we provide. Don't panic. As you know, the don't panic button works with our company 24/7. So there's no need to be afraid of anything regarding UK REACH. We can help you. It's the advice is just one email away. Now I will cooperate with Dragana. We will try to answer some questions that you asked during the webinar. So Dragana, can EU REACH registration numbers be inserted in UK SDS, or do they have to be removed?
Actually, at this point, they can be. As I said, these safety data sheets that were until last year in the EU and UK can be also used by the end of the next year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Until 31st of December 2022, can we continue to use SDSs according to EU REACH? Is that correct?
Yes, it actually is, because if you are not applying the amendment of the Annex 2, you can use it. If you are compiling the new, according to new amendment, then you cannot use it for the UK. So these changes were not transmitted in the UK REACH.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last question we will answer live. Which regulation should be named on the UK SDS? At EU version, we refer to REACH regulation and amendments.
You can use now UK regulation. I have provided link in the presentation, so you will get it, and you can find there all the amendments that were made according to UK REACH.
Okay, perfect. We are almost according to the time. So thank you very much, Dragana. Thank you everyone for joining in. Have a nice afternoon. See you next time.
Thank you.